Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. I'm your science teacher. My name is Tareem and today we will start our new chapter number 10, that is properties of light. But before starting our chapter, as on daily basis, let's start with our today's moral lesson. And our today's moral lesson is about punctuality. Okay, what is punctuality? The basic meaning of punctuality is to be on time. It is to utilize your time wisely, to fulfill all your commitments, all your promises on time, and not to wait until the last moment. All of you have heard about a quote, time and tide wait for none. So it's very important to manage time, to avoid embarrassments and to avoid any kind of unpleasant situation. Okay, our today's topic is topic number 10.1, that is transmission and absorption of light, reflection of light and laws of reflection. Properties of light. First of all, we will discuss that what light is exactly. Light is a form of energy. Now, why it is a form of energy? Because it enables us to see. With the help of light, we can see the objects around us. And the light, the property of light is that it travels in a straight line. The light always travels in a straight line. There are some different sources of light through which we can get light. They are luminous objects and they are non-luminous objects. Now, luminous objects are those objects that have their own light. They give us their own light. They don't need any other source to glow. Okay, for the most common example of this is sun. Similarly, a light bulb, electrical bulb, these are the examples of luminous objects. On the other hand, the non-luminous objects are those objects that don't give out their own light. They shine, they glow, but they don't have their own light. They get their light from other sources and then we become able to see them. And these objects are known as the non-luminous object. And the most common example for non-luminous object is moon. The moon gets its light from the sun. It don't have its own light. There are some other natural sources of light as well. The glowworm, it has natural light inside its body due to some chemicals. Similarly, we have the non-luminous objects which get light from other sources, and these sources are the luminous objects. Our next topic 10.1.1 is about transmission. Now, what is transmission? Transmission is passing of the light through a medium. The process in which light passes through an object is called transmission. For example, we have a glass of water. When we put a torch on it, the light can move from it. The light can pass through it. Similarly, we have a piece of transparent glass. At the same time, the light can travel through the glass and can move from one side to another side. And this passing of light through a certain medium is called transmission of light. The next term which we will discuss is absorption. Now, what is absorption? Absorption, to absorb something, okay, where it means that most of the object around us that absorb the light, the absorption of light, that the object will absorb the light in them. The opaque objects usually, which are solid in nature, they don't allow the light to pass through them. Opaque objects don't allow light to pass through them. Similarly, the transparent objects, they allow light to completely pass through them. Translucent object will allow some of the light to pass through them. The process of absorption can be defined as the process in which light is absorbed and converted into heat. Now, number one, light will be absorbed, and number two step of absorption is that it will be converted into heat. Okay, and when it will be absorbed, it will be absorbed by a rough surface. A smooth surface will not allow light to get absorbed. Usually a rough surface like an opaque object will allow light to get absorbed by the surface, and this process is known as absorption. Mostly when we see opaque objects around us, they absorb some of the light and the rest of the light is reflected back, usually a black color. Let's take the example of a black color. The black color clothes can absorb all the light. That's why it is recommended in summer not to wear black color, because it can absorb all the sunlight in itself and then convert it into heat. And that's why light colors and white colors are recommended to wear in summers to avoid the heat of the sun to get trapped in the black color. The white color, the light ray, it is basically the combination of 7 different colors. It is the combination of 7 different colors. When a light ray passes through the prism, it will split into 7 different colors. Why? Because a single light ray is made up of 7 different colors. They are violet, indigo, blue, red, orange, yellow and green. These 7 colors collectively make a single ray of light. Then the next topic we will discuss is reflection of light. Now what is reflection and which object will reflect the light ray? The opaque objects. The opaque objects will reflect the light. Reflection basically means bouncing back. When you hit a ball on the wall, what will happen to the ball? The ball will be bounced back. The ball will come back to you. This is known as bouncing back of the ball. Similarly, when the light ray hits an opaque object, the opaque object will not allow the light to pass through it. As a result of it, the light ray will be bounced back. Now, this bouncing back of the light ray is known as reflection. Bouncing back of the light ray is known as reflection. The proper definition for reflection could be the process in which light bounces back from a surface is called reflection. Reflection of light. When we see our image in the water surface, we will not call it as an image. We will call it as reflection, because water is a translucent object. Translucent objects are those objects that will allow some of the light to pass through them, and while rest of the light is reflected back. So water is a translucent object, and we will only be able to see our image in the light due to reflection of light from the surface of the water. Now we will discuss the laws of reflection, but before discussing the laws of reflection, first we will discuss some very common terms which are used in these laws. The first is the incident ray. Now what is the incident ray? The ray of light which strikes the reflecting surface is called the incident ray. Now let's suppose that the reflecting surface is a mirror. As in this diagram, you can say the plane mirror. Now the ray which is coming from a certain object and then which strikes to the mirror, that ray is known as the incident ray. The ray striking the mirror is known as the incident ray. Now this ray, after striking the mirror, what will happen to it? It will bounces back. It will be reflected, and it will, after touching the point of the mirror, it will be reflected back in opposite direction. Now, the ray on the right hand side is the reflected ray. The ray in this diagram, the ray on the left hand side is the incident ray, that is the light ray falling straight on the mirror surface. A part of it is reflected, a part of it is bounced back, and it will move in the opposite direction to the incident ray, and it is on your right hand side. Now these are the reflected and the incident rays. Next we have normal. The perpendicular drawn to the reflecting surface is called the normal. Now here in this diagram, you can see a red line in between the incident ray and the reflected ray. This is normal. It separates the angle of incidence from the angle of reflection, and it is usually drawn at a 90-degree angle from the plane mirror surface. Then after normal, we have angle of incidence and angle of reflection. Here in this diagram, you can see the incident ray and the reflected ray. The both rays are making some kind of angle with with the normal. This line, the red line which I am showing you, this is normal, and this is our incident ray, whereas this is our reflected ray. Now there is an angle. Here you can see the black line represents the angle. This angle is the angle between the normal and the incident ray, and this angle is known as angle of incidence. Now here the angle between the reflected ray and the normal, this angle is known as angle of reflection. Then the plane of reflection is an imaginary surface along which the rays and the normal may lie. Here you can see that this complete is an imaginary surface that we imagine that here the light is striking, from here it is reflected back. Now we will discuss the two laws of reflection, the first law of reflection and the second law of reflection. The first law of reflection states that the angle of incidence is always equal to the angle of reflection, that is I is equal to R. Okay, when a ray of light is incident normally on a plane mirror, it means that it is traveling along the normal to the mirror surface. Since the angle of incidence is 0, so angle of reflection will also be 0, and this will satisfy the first law of reflection. If the angle of incidence, here the angle of incidence is 45 degree, then the angle of reflection will also be of 45 degree. If we will change the path of the incident ray and the angle will turn to 60 degree, the angle of reflection will also become 60 degree. This condition can be described. This shows the first law of reflection, that the angle of incidence is always equal to the angle of reflection. Similarly, the second law of reflection states that the incident ray, here is our incident ray, then the reflected ray and the normal, they all lie on the same plane. Now, as I have already told you that this is an imaginary line. We have drawn an imaginary line on the plane mirror surface, that where the rays will meet. They all will lie on the same plane. None of them will lie in another plane like downwards or somewhere else on the mirror. They will lie, if we have drawn it on the paper, they all will lie on the same line, not above that line, not below that line. And this will show that second law of reflection is also satisfied, that all the rays, incident rays, reflected rays and normal, they will all lie in the same plane. Okay class, this is the end of our today's lecture. If you find any kind of question, do ask. You are always welcome to ask your questions. Thank you for till the next lecture.